I walked into a silent clinic. Staff were clustered at the nurse's station holding each other, and at the front desk openly crying. We began calling patients into the waiting room, privately calling them back to the consult rooms, and my stoic and brave staff informed patients that we wouldn't be able to offer them the procedures they needed and that they would remain pregnant that day. That day and the days that have followed were so crushing because we who provide the care know firsthand the impact of abortion. As part of the first appointment that starts the 24-hour waiting period before a patient can have an abortion, I sit with my patients for about 10 minutes to deliver a state-mandated physician abortion counseling. While I loathe reading a 5-page script full of misleading and biased information, I have grown to appreciate this time where I just get to sit with my patients. And though I never ask them the reason they need their abortion, so many of them volunteer their stories. And I want to briefly help you understand the many reasons that Planned Parenthood and abortion will always need to exist, despite politicians and judges' attempts to erase us, and how inhumane it is to force someone to continue a pregnancy that they have decided to terminate. During the counseling session, some of my patients cry, some cry quietly, and so many of them apologize for their tears. Some sob and can't hardly contain their emotion. Many are surprised by their tears because they are so certain of and confident in their decision. Pregnancy is full of big and complex emotions, regardless of how one determines to manage its outcome. And I'm constantly impressed with how thoughtful my patients are when considering their pregnancy options. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about abortion is that the decision for it is made carelessly. And in my 14 years of caring for abortion patients, I have rarely, if ever, experienced that phenomenon. Rather, I see abortion as an option that many of my patients who are already mothers choose out of love for the family and children that they already have, telling me that they don't have the financial or emotional or mental capacity to add to their families. I see some patients choose abortion, and it is the first time in their lives that they have made a decision that is truly for their own well-being. Some choose abortion because they are just about to finish their trade school or in their degree. Some are going to deploy overseas. I hear my patients tell me that they need to end their pregnancies because the father of their pregnancy is emotionally, physically, or sexually abusive. And many of these patients recognize that having to raise a child with this partner would forever tether them to a toxic relationship. Some of my pregnant teens tell me that they didn't even want to have sex, didn't know that they could get pregnant, that their partner said that they put on a condom, said that they'd pull out, said that they loved them. And now they sit across from me alone, young, and suddenly grown up in a way that they wish that they didn't have to be. My patients tell me about their sexual assaults, their abuse, their trafficking. Sometimes they choose medication termination rather than in-clinic procedures because they're afraid of anything that would remind them of their assault. Many tell me that their partners didn't respect their boundaries for contraception. One told me that her partner wouldn't let her use contraception because then she would be able to be unfaithful to him. Many terminate pregnancies that result from perfect and correct use of contraception, and they ask me over and over, unbelieving, how can I be pregnant? My IUD is in place. Some have failed sterilizations. For many, Plan B didn't work. And for many more, contraception wasn't ever affordable. Some bring up their past traumatic and dangerous pregnancies, times when they felt powerless and vulnerable, ignored, and events happened to their deliveries that were beyond their control. I can't go through that again, they tell me. Some patients are so sick with hyperemesis gravidarum, severe nausea and vomiting with pregnancy, that they can't lift their heads up off their desk, their vomit bag in hand. One told me that she knew she wouldn't survive if her pregnancy wasn't terminated. Some are trying to recover still from postpartum depression, and the fear of potentially experiencing the weight of that despair again has them panicked. Some are terminating desperately wanted pregnancies that didn't form correctly. I've had patients with chronic illnesses who face potential mortality if they continue their pregnancies. And I've had patients of color tell me that they don't feel safe birthing because of the very real racism that exists in our nation. And many, many more of my patients sit silently and listen to the state-mandated script, and I'll never know any of the details of their lives or the circumstances that brought them into my clinic. And that is absolutely fine, because the whole point is that the patient herself is the expert on her life and what she needs. And if I've learned anything that I wish I could share with everyone who wants to try and have a say in abortion, it is that we can trust girls and women to make the choices that are right for their lives. Throughout this really tough year, I often think about a flyer that a protester left for me at our Glendale Health Center, which read, "No one grows up wanting to be an abortion provider." And I reflect on how and why I am an abortion provider, and I'm thinking about my dad, who passed this year, who was an old school family practice physician. And I watched him take care of any and every possible patient with dignity and respect. And I reflect on how my parents supported me when my first job out of college was as a medical assistant at Planned Parenthood. And how through that experience I witnessed the incredible impact that family planning and abortion services have on lives. And how I returned to that very same Planned Parenthood clinic when I was a resident in obstetrician and gynecology. And those same good people were still working there, and they taught me how to perform safe procedures to end pregnancies. And how a mentor at that clinic taught me that what to this day has remained actually the most important lesson about medicine that I have ever received. His name is Dr. Moran, and he's been providing abortions for a very long time. And he said to me, "Jill, let's be glad that we're doctors and not judges. Judges have a much more complicated job. You just get to take care of your patients." And so to that protester who left me that flyer, you're wrong. My mom and dad raised me up right, and I have always wanted to be an abortion doctor. And today, more than ever, I am committed to provide because my patients continue to come to me with the need for abortion. Abortion has always been a reality, and it always will be. And both despite and because of an incredibly challenging year, our resolve is strong and our commitment is unwavering. And there's still a lot of fight that's left in us. And so at Planned Parenthood, we refuse to be silent. And we're back in our health centers blaring Beyonce and Lizzo, because abortion is actually an act of love and an act of empowerment, and we're here for it. Thank you. And so pleased to pass the mic to Kelly Dukes.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. My name is Kelly Dukes. I'm the Senior Director of Public Policy and Government Relations here at Planned Parenthood. And I'm joined by my good friend, Julie Coburn from NARAL. Thank you, Dr. Gibson, for all the care that you provide. I'm going to try to go and be Harvey Milk and recruit you for what is next, right? Because 24 starts today, right? The election in 2024 starts today with us organizing, us out there, us being the people in our families that we are, the crusaders that talk to our friends and family and say, "What do you think about the abortion ban?" Or all of the things that I'm known for in our family. Don't sit next to me during Thanksgiving because we will have an obnoxious conversation about the world, and I will recruit you to what's next. And so, as Jody said, there is going to be a ballot initiative. We are going to have to mobilize. We are going to get to do this in person a lot, talk to people about the importance of bodily autonomy. And as a transgender man, abortion really affects me. I am able to be who I am and have patient-led healthcare because of abortion rights. Abortion rights sees the patient and says, "We hear you." Right? As a transgender person, gender-affirming care says, "We hear you. Here is health care for you." And I wouldn't have that without abortion rights. And so it really does